Hello, and welcome to the Magic in You podcast. This is the place where we reconnect with the wonder of our childlike spirit and rediscover the timeless joy and wisdom found in children's books. Together, we'll transform these stories into powerful secrets for mastering life's challenges, finding the freedom to be your true self, and embracing the joy of your creative nature. I'm Gina Graves, board-certified coach, musician, and teacher. Thank you so much for being here.
What do you do with an idea? What if the ideas and curiosities that tug at you are gifts that could change everything? What if you could see them as blessings for your life and your world, your surroundings, maybe even the world? In this episode, we explore the magic of inspiration, the courage to follow through, and the joy that comes from nurturing the ideas that choose us. Through powerful stories and practical tips, let's see if we can rediscover creativity and take that first step towards your dreams. Let's dive in and see where your ideas can take you.
Thanks, Mira. That's my daughter. Today's episode is inspired by the book, What Do You Do with an Idea? Written by Kobi Yamada and illustrated by May Besson. I love this book. It was a birthday gift given to my daughter a couple years ago. When I read it to her for the first time, it sparked something wonderfully wild and magical in me. It wasn't only a beautiful message for her, it was a timely message I very much needed to hear. The whole reason I'm doing this podcast is because I believe we need to revisit the magic of childhood and see the world through that lens. It's so much more joyful and colorful and vibrant if we can do that. I feel like this should be required reading for everyone, young and not so young. The book begins with a little boy who one day had an idea. Where did it come from? Why is it here? What do you do with an idea? At first, he didn't think much of it. He didn't know what to do with it. So he just walked away and acted like it didn't belong to him. But it followed him. The book presents an idea as something that has a life of its own, something that captures us. It reminded me of some time ago when I listened to Elizabeth Gilbert's TED Talk, where she so beautifully and grippingly explains how to manage the inherent emotional risks of creativity. Because all artists are emotionally unstable, right? Actually, they're just highly sensitive. Side note, ideas aren't always necessarily works of art, and we're going to get into that later. But anyway, in that talk, she presented the idea that in ancient Rome, genius was thought of as its own magical entity, a spirit of sorts that existed outside a person. This is such a beautiful idea because, as she stated, it would protect a person if their work bombed, because if it was something outside of them, then they wouldn't have to feel personally responsible. And then on the flip side, it would also prevent the narcissism that might accompany a person who is responsible for a brilliant work. So in a nutshell, it's the idea of having a genius versus being a genius. She talked about how the poet Ruth Stone once said she could feel and hear a poem coming at her from over a landscape, rolling at her like thunder. And it was her job to rush and get a pen and paper so that she could capture it. Otherwise, it would find its way to another poet. You know, that really resonated with me because I can attest to this feeling. Now, I'm not saying I ever created a work of genius, but I do know that anything I've ever created that's worth its salt has been something that has come through me and captured me rather than from me. So, we get an idea. What do? Well, unfortunately, what many of us do at times is A, ignore it, B, talk ourselves out of it. I want to take piano lessons. I want to visit Thailand. I want to learn to paint. I want to paint the night sky, even though it's 3 a.m. and I should be sleeping. I have an idea I want to patent. I want to volunteer with the Philly Goat Project, said my friend. I want to start a podcast. Oh, what I went through trying to talk myself into doing this. I want to go back to school. I want to make a music video. I want to learn how to make jewelry. The list goes on forever and ever, and you can add yours to that list. We put things off. We start projects, then we don't finish them. We think practically and logically instead of allowing ourselves to be carried by our inspiration and our curiosity. We don't give ourselves permission to follow our bliss. We don't create space for it. As the book suggests, our bliss is something that finds its way to us. It's a gift. It's something that begs for our attention, and it captures us or even possesses us. We can either decide to flow with it, or we can shun it and treat it like an annoyance, or worse yet, indulge in our self-doubt until we either have the courage to embrace the idea, or we allow our fear or the simple necessary tasks of day-to-day life to take over, and then we neglect it or run and hide from it. The little boy then goes on to worry about what others would think. What would people say about his idea? So he kept it to himself. He hid it away. He didn't talk about it. He tried to act like everything was the same as it was before his idea showed up. But he had to admit there was something magical about his idea, and he felt better and happier when it was around. Let's explore that. I have to admit that I am every bit as guilty of running and hiding as the people I coach to do the very opposite. They say we teach what we need to learn. So I've seen and experienced both sides of this. I was watching the show Shrinking, and have you ever seen it? Harrison Ford's character ever so eloquently stated something to the effect that effed up people are far better at helping other effed up people. Thank goodness for that. All right, so here's what I can tell you. The level of fulfillment and energy and joy I have both witnessed and personally experienced as a result of following through on an idea versus trying to ignore and ultimately ghosting an idea is the difference between the brightest of glorious days and the darkest of the most insufferable nights. I'd like to share a story I hope will inspire you. Sandy, my mother-in-law, grew up in Hawaii. She corrects me when I pronounce it Hawaii because it's pronounced Hawaii. Anyway, I asked her how that came about, that she lived in Hawaii since she's not native to Hawaii. She explained that when her father had passed away suddenly when she was just a little girl, her mother, a registered nurse named Harriet, was left with her and her 3 sisters. It was a devastating time for them, to say the least. Harriet loved square dancing. There was an opportunity to go on a trip to Hawaii for a square dancing event. In her grief, even though it didn't make sense financially or practically, she made the decision to go, trusting that it would somehow work out. And somehow, she was able to swing it. Harriet fell madly in love with the island, and she didn't want to leave. She wondered, is there a way I could try living here for a year? Her house was paid for after all. Mortgage insurance had been a blessing. And she had a brother who lived in Hawaii, and he offered to help find a place to rent. So she rented out her home in Idaho, and that money paid for a rental home in Hawaii. She gathered what belongings she could, along with her 4 daughters, and off they sailed on an ocean liner to paradise. And that could even be the end of the story, and that might be inspiring enough. But it gets much better. On that 5-day boat journey, lifelong friendships were formed with the other families headed to the same destination to start their new lives. Harriet was able to work for an OB/GYN, and at the time, well-to-do families from California would send their teenage daughters who unintentionally found themselves with child to Hawaii for a semester to study, as they also happened to give birth in secret. Then they would give their child up for adoption. Here's where Harriet came in. She found a role for herself playing matchmaker. She would find the perfect families for these beautiful babies. She had 100% success rate. Interestingly, 2 of the women who were on that ocean liner to Hawaii with Harriet ended up unfortunately unable to get pregnant. Harriet was able to match one of those families with 2 children and the other with 3 total over the years. What a beautiful blessing for all involved. Serendipity at its finest. Harriet followed through with her idea. She turned her terrible tragedy into not only a life of meaning for herself, but for her daughters who were able to grow up in the beauty of paradise. On top of that, she had a profound role in connecting children in need of families with perfect and wonderful families to love and care for them. So, what do you do with an idea? The book simply asks. You change the world. Changing the world doesn't always have to be some grandiose adventure. If anything is true, it's that each and every human being is unique. We all have gifts and talents and desires and curiosities, usually ones that, if we think about it, chose us. We did not choose them. We may have chosen to follow one path instead of another, or to cultivate one skill over another. But our natural abilities, combined with our personal experience, and our perceptions and choices and interests, make us uniquely capable of things that no one else can do or be in the same way that we can. So here's one on the flip side. Alexis was a unique and highly intelligent and creative artist. Whether it was baking, writing, designing her home, making a garden, or sketching a portrait, her work could hold up to or many times even surpass the work of professionals in any of the aforementioned categories. One day, Alexis had an idea. She loved to bake and thought, I wonder if I could start a business making custom desserts for special occasions. She was so excited about this venture. She began researching the equipment she would need and got started brainstorming. She shared her sketches of her creative ideas with me, and they were just gorgeous. Her recipes were outstanding. I may have been more excited than she was. I couldn't wait for her to get up and running. But sometimes the mind can do terrible things to a person. Alexis began second-guessing herself. She thought, who do I think I am? What if I go through all this trouble and it goes nowhere? What if people don't like what I make and I ruin someone's event? What if it's not special enough to warrant charging people? Alexis halted her process. She did not follow through. God only knows whether or not her business would have been successful, but Alexis never had the chance to find out. Although she certainly finds some joy in the simplicity of her day-to-day life, there's an underlying sadness, a feeling of failure, a feeling of worthlessness. She was much happier when her idea was a part of her life. And I believe those feelings happen for a reason. They're symptoms of us not doing what we're meant to do. When we deny ourselves the gifts that are magically sent our way, the results can be tragic. Alexis is one story, but I have countless others of people just like her who gave up on themselves and their dreams out of fear. Some are getting through life okay, but I can tell you, others are wallowing in a numbness or pain or even suffering. The feeling of emptiness that can consume us when we set our ideas on the proverbial shelf to collect proverbial dust can not only destroy our sense of well-being, it can destroy our health and our relationships. Being so self-conscious can be so destructive. That's why thinking of an idea as a gift and something that graces us, something that chose us, is so much more beneficial than feeling we're fully responsible for how our idea turns out. Getting our thoughts out of the way so that we can be used as a vessel is the way out of that self-consciousness. The little boy began to notice that this idea thing was a bit of an attention hog. It wanted food, it wanted to play. Actually, it wanted a lot of attention. We are designed to grow. We are compelled to contribute. We develop confidence through doing. And so when we're blessed with curiosity about something and we do not follow it, it's like allowing the seed to die of thirst, and we never get to see what kind of flower or tree or fruit it could have become. Will you fail? Sometimes, and yes, most definitely, but not every time. And a failure is simply another step towards your success. Who you become in the process of following through with an idea is tremendously valuable in and of itself. One thing I know to be true is that in the very least, following our bliss or following through with an idea may not always turn into a grand situation. You might not become rich or famous. You might not even leave your basement or your living room. But personally, I can agree with what my greatest teacher, Dr. John Snyder, taught me. If I'm making music, I'm better in the world. Because I give myself that gift of expression, I'm lighter. I experience more joy. And so I can be more present with my family and friends. I can spread that joy. I've seen countless others through their process as well. And when people follow through with their inspiration, they feel better. They pay it forward. And each little individual world feels better. Every drop counts. All those worlds add up to and alter the magnificent whole. The little boy mustered the courage to show his idea to other people. He faced his fear that people might laugh, that they would think it was silly. Well, guess how that went? Yep, many of them did. They laughed. They said it was no good, weird, and that it would never become anything. And at first, he believed them. He almost listened to them. Oh gosh, when you're getting ready to tell people about your idea or release it into the world, oh, get ready. Although the bumps in the road are aplenty during your inner process, that certainly isn't all rainbows and sunshine. But as you get closer to your goal, you will be tested. Those inner demons and even external demons magnify and amplify, and you have to be prepared for battle. So it's like you trip over some silly little obstacle, and then the negative self-talk takes that very opportunity to take center stage and warn you of the terrible danger you're in. You can thank them for trying to protect you. Actually, making friends with your demons can prove to be a great strategy. You just can't listen to them. We're going to dive into that in future episodes, don't worry. It's my specialty. But then the little boy realized it isn't their idea. No one knows it like I do. So what if it seems a little crazy? So he decided to protect it, to care for it, and to give it the attention it deserved. Well, guess how that went? Let's just say it went so beautifully that he couldn't imagine his life without it. He said it shared its secrets with me because it said it's good to have the ability to see things differently. One day, his idea transformed before his very eyes. It spread its wings, took flight, and burst into the sky. It went from being here to being everywhere. It wasn't just part of him anymore. It was part of everything. When you have an interest or an idea or a dream or a curiosity, you have to see it for the blessing that it is. It's not always an easy relationship. Sometimes it requires grit on your part. Sometimes it requires you battling the demons in your mind. Actually, usually it does. It requires you to receive it for the gift that it is and to get out of your own way. As the book so beautifully conveys, if you can allow your idea the space it so desperately craves, it can not only change your world, it can in turn change the world. So let me ask you, is there something that's been tugging at you? Something you have in the back of your mind that sometimes makes its way to the front of your mind? Something that maybe you've even started or taken steps towards, but you keep pressing it down, pressing it back, pushing it away? Or have you thought, who am I to accomplish this? Or, I don't have time. Or, it can't make money. Or is there some random thought that has unexpectedly popped into your head out of nowhere that made you feel excited, but then you just released it back into the others like a balloon that disappears forever into the infinite sky? I mean, you can certainly find millions and trillions of practical reasons why you should not pursue your idea. Well, if you think about Harriet for a moment, it's kind of a crazy idea to just, haul herself off to Hawaii for square dancing, leaving her 4 daughters at home, and then when she gets there deciding, maybe I think I could live here. That's kind of crazy, right? So, whenever you think your idea might be a little out there, crazy, don't write it off just yet, because you have no idea where it might lead. Oh, and let's not forget the possibility that you may have been so effective at pushing down your ideas that they don't even come to visit you anymore. So, if that's the case, I find the 3 most effective ways to get in touch with yourself, to open up to ideas, are: number 1, journal. In the beautiful book, The Artist's Way by Julia Cameron, readers are encouraged to write 3 pages every morning. You must write for 3 pages. That way, you're forced to go deeper when you feel you have nothing else to say. You'll be surprised at what surfaces. Also, it's important to use pen and paper. Something about that helps with flow. Number 2, spend time in nature. A brisk walk is best. Number 3, meditate. If you have trouble sitting in silence, however, refer to number 2. It works just as well. Here are some questions you can journal about or meditate on. Number 1, what would you do with your time if you didn't have to worry about money, responsibilities, or most importantly, judgment? Number 2, if you believed anything was possible, what would you really go for? Number 3, what do you believe is holding you back? I believe that time expands, and if something's important to you, like for instance, your idea, you'll find the time and resources you need. You just might surprise yourself. Thank you so much for being here today. Please go to yourbeautifulpath.com for courses, resources, meditations, and to get in touch. Oh, and also to find the reflection sheet from today's episode. I would love to hear from you and would be thrilled to work with you on your idea. I'm Gina Graves, wishing you an inspiring and magical day.